Australia has announced plans for a one-way travel bubble across the Tasman, with Kiwis able to travel to New South Wales and the Northern Territory without having to quarantine from October 16. Australia's Deputy Prime Minister Michael McCormack revealed the move this afternoon and signalled this would be the first stage in what is hoped will be a trans-tasman travel across all Australian states. There are some limitations. Anyone from New Zealand can't be coming from an area described as a COVID hotspot, somewhere where there have been fewer than 3 cases for 3 days. But the changes will not allow Australians to travel to New Zealand. Jacinda Ardern says New Zealand isn't ready for that at our end, and anyone heading across the ditch will have to complete their 2 days in managed isolation on their return. Now, joining me now to discuss today's developments is the Chief Executive of the Tourism Industry Aotearoa, Chris Roberts. Kia ora, Chris. Is this good news?
Look, it's a crack in the door, but it's a bit of a Clayton's announcement, really. Someone might want to buy a one-way ticket to Australia to reunite with family, but no one's going to hop on a plane and go for a weekend shopping in Sydney and then come back into 2 weeks isolation in New Zealand. So it's the first development of opening up the Tasman, but it's fairly inconsequential. So
why do you think they're doing it and doing it now?
The real reason, I think, is internal Australian politics. The federal government in Australia and the government of New South Wales are working together to put pressure on the other Australian states to open up, because there are still barriers to travel from state to state in Australia. And what they really want is for all of Australia to open up. New Zealand's sort of been used to get that to happen.
So we're the leverage, you think?
That's right. And look, in a way, we're happy to be used because it starts the conversation and we can start having talk about how that safe travel can happen. But until we can have isolation-free travel on both sides of the Tasman, it's not going to make a big difference.
Yeah, so at the moment it's a one-way street, right? So Australians can't come here, and even New Zealanders coming back have to do quarantine. But the fact we don't have Australians coming here and people can go overseas from New Zealand to Australia and spend their tourism dollars, what do you think that's going to do to the tourism industry here?
I'm hopeful that New Zealanders are sensible enough to know that the best thing they can do is have a holiday at home at the moment. As I said at the start, there may be family reasons to head across to Sydney. If you've been living in Sydney and you've been back in New Zealand during this period and you want to get back over there, then you're now able to do that. But really, from a tourism point of view, I really don't think many people are going to jump on a plane, go to Australia, and then have to pay $3,000 to spend 2 weeks in an isolation hotel when they get back to New Zealand.
So, Chris, are you appealing to Kiwis to stay home for the moment and spend their money here?
Yeah, look on this with some interest. It's a crack in the door. It signals that we can actually travel across the Tasman, and hopefully after our election, after the elections that are happening in Queensland and elsewhere in Australia, we'll be able to make some further progress. And we're really, really keen to have the borders properly open before Christmas.
So you think that it's realistic to have a two-way travel bubble with Australia before Christmas?
Yes, and obviously with the exception for now of Victoria, I don't think anyone thinks Melbourne and Victoria are ready yet for travel, but many parts of Australia are doing as well, or potentially even better than New Zealand in controlling COVID. So we can do it state by state, and this is an interesting first step, pretty much done primarily for internal Australian reasons, but we can take advantage of this and work to something that's more beneficial for New Zealand.
Has the current government told you something that gives you confidence that it'll happen before December?
No, absolutely not. But we do know that everything that needs to be put in place to have a safe border has been worked on. The necessary people on both sides of the Tasman have been working on that for many months now. So the plan's all ready to go. And as soon as we're confident that the agreement between the two governments can be reached, then it can go ahead and happen. But of course, right now we're in the middle of an election campaign. It's going to be very difficult to see anything happen on our side for the next couple of weeks. But we think once we get past the election and we can have some further discussions from between the two governments, hopefully the borders are open in a proper fashion before Christmas.
Appreciate your time this evening. That's Chris Roberts, who's the Chief Executive of Tourism Industry Aotearoa.